Hi, everyone, and welcome to another workshop for the Ink Hackathon. So today we are going to learn how to build a full stack dApp, and we're going to hear from German from the Parity team. So I'm going to invite him to the stage. And as he does that, I just would love to see you guys pop all of your questions or comments, reactions in the chat. Tell us what you think. And by the end, we will go through all the questions. So make sure you put them there so you get an answer. So let's see that he is ready to join the stage now. So it should be any second. And in the meantime, everyone just say hi in the chat, introduce yourself. Are you guys excited to hear everything in today's session? I know I am. It's going to be a great one. Hi, how are you?
Can you hear me?
Yes, can hear you.
Perfect. Awesome. All right.
Great. Yeah, you just get started whenever you're ready.
Awesome. Hey, everyone. I hope we'll see a couple of messages from the chat. My name is German. I work at Parity for over a year. I'm also one of the alumni of the Polkadot Blockchain Academy, the very first one that took place in Cambridge. And today we're going to focus on building a full stack application using Ink and the front-end framework or library called use.ink. We're going to talk a little bit more about both parts, and we're going to do it in an interactive way. This workshop kind of supposed to be interactive. It's I did a similar one during Sub-Zero, if some of you were there. You don't have to participate. I'm just going to go through the code, through the steps, but you can follow along. And if you have any questions, just feel free to pop them in the chat, and either Clara or me are going to read them. So let's start. I think the best way to proceed is for me to share my screen. Okay.
It should be at the bottom of the page. Yeah, you can see it. Great. Seems like we have some international participants. We have an Ola, we have a Guten Tag in the chat. So all good.
Just for reference, I'm not German. It's just my name is German. I'm German with Russian, but with some Moldovan origins. And it seems like in order to share my screen, I need to restart the browser. So I'm going to rejoin in a minute if it's fine.
That's fine. Yeah, I will just talk to everyone.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No worries. Okay, so if everyone can just put in the chat where they're from, that would be really exciting. I'm going to put where I'm from. I can see where everyone else is from. Yeah, I said, I didn't know how to pronounce his name, so I said German, but I think it's German. So that makes a bit more sense. But yeah, I'm sure he gets that all the time. Let me pop in the chat where I am from. I would love to hear where everyone else is from. And also feel free to let us know what you're excited to hear about today in today's session. And if you have any questions already, obviously you can always throw those in there. Oh, is there someone, is that Norwegian, Matthias? In Bangladesh, wow, nice. What time is it in Bangladesh? Is it, let's see, is it? It's 9 p.m. in Bangladesh, okay. That's quite late. Hopefully we don't go too far and you can go to sleep soon. Oh, wow, you're a bit from everywhere. Cool. Yeah, I also mix all the different Scandinavian languages. It's easy to mix up. Oh, yes, of course. Sorry about that. So we are inviting Germán to the stage again.
Okay, again.
Hi. Sorry, I was having way too much fun talking to people in the chat, so I missed the fact that you joined again. So yeah, I've tried to share your screen again now. Hopefully it will work.
All right, also I'm just gonna close the tab. And okay, so let's first, I'm gonna share this link for you to kind of quickly jump around tabs. So it's a linked tree, like with double E and Inc _ championship. Yeah, if you can pop this in the chat, Lauren, that would be helpful. Clara, that would be helpful. And you can find the link to repository with the workshop with all the instructions. You can also find a link to Substrate Contracts UI, which is an interface for you to interact with your contracts. And let me quickly demonstrate.
Sorry, can you send the link? I couldn't see what it was.
Of course, yes.
It was a bit too small on the screen.
Yes.
There we go.
Yep.
Thank you.
So I'm in a single screen, so I need to pop in the window. Okay. Well, taking a while, so I'm just going to summarize the game. So the game is basically a grid, various sizes, can be 10 by 10 and 20 by 20. And the idea is that you need to write a smart contract that's called by the game smart contract. Again, everything is written in ink, and you need to color as many cells as possible while using as less gas as possible. And yeah, like it sounds simple, but there are like a couple of clever strategies you can implement. Yeah, like if again, okay, internet will allow me to quickly run the front.
Can I just ask you to zoom in a little bit more? It's quite difficult to see.
Yeah, I'm not doing anything like fancy. I'm just
okay.
Yeah, I'm just trying to run the game. Oh damn! Yeah, I was in the wrong directory. Yes. Okay. And probably run it here. And yes, okay. So then I'm gonna take. I'm gonna take this address, pop this in. This is the game address, and we're gonna play a game. Yes, and I'm gonna enable a couple of settings, notifications, pixel grid, and maybe dark mode. And the game was done by the ex-Parity employees, Sam Roberti, who also is behind use.inc frontend library. In fact, the library itself emerged from this game. And yeah, you can see on the grid, we have 20 by 20 grids, and then we have coordinates. And then the idea is that you're going to register your contract and try to color as many cells as possible. So I already instantiated a player contract called simple player X, and the reason why I call X you're gonna see in a moment. And just for demonstration purposes, like the way you can do it, I'm going to upload another contract, and I'm going to specify the dimension of the grid. Yep, I'm going to sign the transaction. I'm sure like you had like plenty of workshop from Olive Zero guys, and I don't have to go through the process of getting testnet tokens and faucet. If you do, the link is faucet.test.a0.dev. Okay, and then what we need to do, we need to go to game contract, and we need to register player, and I'm going to register first player X, and call it Alice, and the buy-in is 1. That's how much you need to pay in order to join the game. And secondly, I'm going to register another player and call it Bob. And I'm going to call I'm going to register it again. And you should see them. Now we can have Bob and Alice. And what's next? Now we can start the game. Yes. Send transaction. By the way, it's all running LF0 testnet. So we have 1 second blocked. We have 1 second finality time, which is absolutely perfect for this game. You can see, I'm going to zoom it a bit. You can see in the game that's the status is ready. And let me submit turn. Yeah, just once. Yep, you can see that Bob now colored this block. And then I'm going to slightly automate this process by a call in a script that we wrote. It's also in the repository. It is called drive game. Yes, and I need to pass the contract address as the parameter. Yep, should be. Yep. And now you can see how with each block, with each round, both Alice and Bob are trying to call as many blocks as possible. And we have 20 turns at this our current round. Yep, so take. Yes.
Apologies, sorry. Is it okay? Is it possible for you to zoom in a little bit more? Just because I think people are struggling to see exactly what's going on. And
I don't think I'm going to zoom in on the game itself. I can zoom in the code. When I'm going to jump to the code, yeah, I'm going to zoom in. So yeah, the game is cool. Yeah. So the game is complete, and we have Bob and Alice, and you can see that Bob is the winner because his score is high because he used first less amount of gas by roughly 10 million. Yep, and colored roughly 2 more blocks than Alice. So now I want to jump to the code. Is that okay? Or do I need to zoom in a little bit more?
A little bit more would be great.
Yeah. Is that fine? A little bit more.
A tiny bit more. Just to make it very clear to people. I think that is a lot better. Thank you.
Okay. So now let's look at the game contract. And in case you want to participate, we're going to run a simple game later. So in the meantime, while you're watching me, feel free to clone the repository. The link, again, the Linktree link in the comments. Just go to the repository, clone it. And you want to go to simple play. That's kind of like a template. And all you need to do is to edit this message and write your strategy. So you need to return a tuple, which represents coordinates X and Y. And you need to write some fancy strategy that allows you to basically return coordinates on the next round that you want to color. And there's also a little hint how you can use this strategy that's given in the sample contract, and color in the y-axis actually use less gas and color a little bit more blocks than with the current strategy. But again, like the title of this talk is the full stack front-end development. So first, when you develop your strategy, it's also useful to test it. And I'm sure one of the guys from LF0, Peter, maybe mentioned during a couple of sessions ago about different testing strategies where you can have unit tests, you can have end-to-end tests, and in Inc, there's now also a notion of quasi end-to-end testing, and you can actually see those strategies here. Yes. And that would allow you to essentially test your contract against the node. So with this end-to-end test, we actually tested the contract against running node, but then we have a drink test. It's actually one of the new features contributed by Piotr from Aleph Zero that allows you to, instead of running the node, you essentially simulate Parity contracts, the runtime, like as a part of execution without actually spawning a separate process. And to put it all in perspective, like while again you might be working a chess strategy, I want to also jump into complete a full stack application and like essentially break it down and how you can basically wire everything together. So the reason with this workshop prepared for Sub-Zero, it was originally deployed on Rococo. In Rococo, we have a problem that sometimes faucet is drained. So I had an idea to kind of use this as an opportunity to write my own faucet as a smart contract and turn it into full stack application. So if we look at the smart faucet, you essentially have very primitive storage with admin who controls the faucet, with an amount that you would give to people, and timeouts that essentially timeouts callers or users from like draining the faucet. So like if you retrieve like 5 tokens, you need to wait X number of blocks before you can call the contract again. And we have a mapping. And one of the best practices when deploying and working on full stack applications is having a meaningful, first having state assertions, which is very important because if you violate one of the assertions and constraints, that can bring very severe security implications, like we've seen with DeFi applications when like those exploits have been used to either retrieve funds and modify states that usually would be illegal. So we have a assertion here that we check that first the amount that we're trying to retrieve is actually less or equal to the balance of the contract, and then we return meaningful error that there are insufficient funds in the contract. Then we want to have another assertion that testing for the timeout, as I mentioned before, because we don't want the people to just retrieve all the tokens like in a first couple of blocks. And yes, and then finally we proceed with the transfer, but in case there's an error with the transfer that happens in the runtime level, we also want to panic and return a meaningful error with meaningful message. That's essentially helpful for the user, for the interface, and for login purposes when debugging the contract. You can also notice that they have a bunch of commands that's calling a debug print line. That essentially, these lines are actually emitted when you compile a contract for production in a release mode, but it's super helpful when you test your contract and run it in debug mode and want to test, want to kind of have this checkpoint in your contract when you run it in debug mode or compile it in debug mode. And then let's actually look at the more exciting part of the full stack application. Let's look at the front end. And in fact, with Web3 applications, front end can be sometimes even more important than the back end, specifically smart contract, because its user experience can become essential part of any like web application development. And web experience, like we can all agree that Web3 experience is not as smooth as it's Web2. So like my kind of piece of advice for people like potentially working the ideas for this hackathon is actually focus on usable and smooth user experience and user interface. It doesn't have to be pretty, but it has to be intuitive. So let's just jump into the front end, and this front end actually uses use.inc library that essentially removes all this boilerplate code. For people who already like try to work with substrate technologies, like you're probably familiar with Polkadot.js, and you probably experience this hassle and pain trying to configure everything that like just essentially boilerplate code and doesn't actually deliver any value, and you just wasting your time. This is where this library comes on. It's built on top of Polkadot.js, but it kind of pre-configures and everything for you, and it essentially targets for developers who are trying to build smart contract applications. And let's just look at the main file where like, the configuration happens. So we have already a preset list of chains that you can use. You can see here that I'm targeting Aleph0 testnet, and I can configure default caller, and I can specify the chains that would be available, would allow my front end to submit the call. And then I also specify a metadata file that I think should be stored in assets. Yes, here's the metadata that you would usually copy from the artifacts, from the build artifacts of cargo contract build execution. So this is where like basically all the configuration of your application happens, and you can see it's literally 5 lines of code. And then let's just jump onto the actual application. I'm gonna actually run it in a bit and show you how it looks. And here, again, it's what we want to do. We want to establish an interface. Again, we are essentially relying on hooks, and we want to establish interface, how we want to call the contract. And here we also establish a call subscription. And if you remember, like if you jump back, I'm just going to close this. I'm going to open the contract code here. You can remember that we can configure the amount that we change amount. We can actually configure the amount, like as an admin, we can configure an amount that our faucet will give to users. And then, so we want to have this as a live update. So we simply use a use call subscription hook, and we specify which message we want to call. And yes, here's our message. And later, if you want to have notifications in your app, you just simply use notifications, and in your main config file, notification provider will basically just handle notifications, for you, and will automatically display them on the screen. And here, like again, if you're familiar with React, we basically just have a JSX to TSX template, where we essentially use the values retrieved from the hooks to pop them into HTML and display to user. And yes, it's simple as that. Like this is like, I heavily encourage you to try it out, to just hack around. In fact, just for reference, I'm myself not a front-end developer. I have very limited knowledge using front-end tooling, but it didn't take me too much time to basically just poke around this front-end template and just like come up with something like, I'm gonna actually build an app. Yes, and then I think I need to run pnpm smart faucet. Okay, yes, I'm just gonna copy that and pop that in here. Yep, still building. Yep. Yep, I'm gonna zoom that in. Is that clear? Can you all see it on the screen?
I can see it quite clearly, and there's no complaints in the chat, so it looks like it's all good.
So you can see, like, we simply retrieve contract balance. That's the balance of a contract, and then your balance, my personal balance. I have a standard almost 25K of T0 tokens. You can also see that we display, we correctly denominate the balance and displayed the token name. And in fact, use Inc library also allows us to retrieve this data from the metadata from the chain by calling plank to decimal, formatted, and retrieving the amount. Because it returns as a string, it basically parses it and denominates it, and also displays the token. You can see here that I just display this decimal amount, and it will automatically pop in the string with the number and the token name. So if I change it to Rococo, it will basically display a Rococo token symbol. And yeah, that's simple as that. It's just gonna. Yep, and because we have one-time finality time, and we see that our balance decreased, the contract balance decreased by 5 tokens, and how are we doing this time? And increased, and my balance increased by 5. I mean, it's not that clear because my balance is so large. And yeah, so the idea is that if you're in a team, I heavily encourage you to basically play this game together, and also try to come up with as fancy strategies, as clever strategies as possible. It will also enable you to kind of get a better feeling with using end-to-end testing, and also basically working with the front end. If you want to look at the front end of the game, unfortunately, I don't have time to look at the game's front end today, but the codes like in the front end in the game front end library is pretty much the same as in Smart Faucet. So it should give you, like, I would say, the most extensive example of like a production scale, like complex front-end application built using the use.inc library. We also have the Smart Faucet front-end example for you to play around. And you can also go to, I think, Inc examples. Yeah, if you're not familiar with those. Yeah, I'm going to zoom that in. Yep, where you can go to branch, I think Submarine, yes, and it will basically have templates, front-end templates or front-end examples for this set of examples like ERC20, ERC721, where you can use that as a template, as a kind of boilerplate code to start working on your application. And I think we are now almost at the 30-minute mark. So yeah, then the question to the audience, do you want to move to the Q&A, or do you want to play the game?
Yes, everyone, let us know in the chat what you guys would prefer. In the meantime, I think we have a question already.
Perfect.
If you could just answer that in the meantime. Can you change the logic to take every 2 pieces of the board, recompile it, and play against Bob? You are Alice. Alice has the new logic.
So what do you mean by taking every 2 pieces of the board? You can only color 1 piece each round, so you cannot color more than 1. And in fact, if you try to color a piece that's been already colored, your execution will basically fail, and you will basically just miss the turn and waste gas. Can you share the GitHub link? Sure, I'm gonna pop in the link to Inc examples repository with front-end templates. I'm gonna also send the link to the workshop for you to try out. And yeah, if you have any, again, if you have any questions about use.inc library, feel free to ask. But again, I'm not that knowledgeable on the front end, so I will not answer like the most advanced questions. But when it comes to smart contract development or Inc, yes, feel free to shoot any questions. Was to change something, recompile it, and say how the workflow. Okay. So probably the best way, I'm gonna kind of slowly walk through how you can run the game locally. So you can try it out, try different strategies. Okay, so first what you would need to do, I'm just gonna close everything. So first, you would need to go to game folder, Yes, you do not need to change the game. Just don't touch it. But you can always have a look because it does some fancy cross-contract calls with reentrancy, and actually there's a potential exploit that can be done. So it's actually would be homework for you to figure it out. One of our developers actually figured it out by using Solidity, using Solon compiler to use Solidity to basically to trick the game. So you would navigate to game, you would run cargo contract build in release mode for efficiency. Then, yes, if we're clear with that step, again, you go to Ink Championship / game folder, this one, and inside there you compile the contract. Then you would go to the contracts UI. Again, the link is just gonna send this. I'm gonna send this in chat. Yes, you would go there, and if you're running a local node, like substrate contracts node, you would choose a local node. But if you want to deploy directly to testnet, because I mean, it's actually Aleph0 testnet is almost as fast as your local node, you would choose Aleph0 testnet. Then you would go, I'm going to zoom that in for people to see. You would click on, again, make sure you're on Aleph0 testnet, make sure you have some faucet tokens. You would go to add new contract, you would upload your contract, choose the account. Simply, yes, I'm just going to navigate. Simply navigate to game folder, target, ink, and you have your contract bundle, which contains both buzz and blob, like binary and metadata all together. Then you would upload it. You can see that everything is correct. You can see the language version, authors, and all other the messages. Next, you would instantiate. You specify the dimensions, so like X and Y. Let's do it 10 by 10. Then you specify the buy-in. So buy-in is you can specify 0, but to have some skin in the game, you may ask players to submit one token as a part of the call in order to join the game. Then forming rounds. Forming rounds is essentially the number of blocks that should pass before. It's a number of blocks that should pass after you instantiate the contract before you can start the game. And the reason why it's done is so that you can allow players to join, because essentially, since it's a public contract, anyone can call any message, including starting the game, but you don't want that. So you would specify that, let's say, when Aleph0, we've given that the block time is 1 second. Let's say you want to give like 5 minutes for people to join. So that would roughly be like 300 rounds, which corresponds to 300 blocks that should pass before you can start the game. For simplicity, I'm just going to specify 1. Then rounds, that's the number of rounds of the game, number of blocks that game would go for. So let's just do 20, and then you don't need to mess with that. Then you upload instantiate, send the transaction, and yes, now you instantiated the contract. Now what you would need to do next is to run the front end. And for that, you need to go to, I'm just going back to home directory. So in the root directory, you go to game front end, and you first run yarn to install dependencies, and then you run yarn dev, and it will basically start the server. So then you go to the localhost address, and then you paste an address of a contract, which you can copy to the clipboard by just pressing this button at the top. You paste it here. You choose your language, if you're French or Spanish, if you wish to play that language. You play the game, and yes, then you can see the button here to change a couple of visual settings like dark mode. But also the coolest thing about the game is that you can play an awesome squinky jazz. Yeah, I think that's the best part of the game. And yes, once you've done that, you want to deploy, you want to essentially share this contract address with other players. And you also want to share the metadata. And the reason for that, so for the other players, because they need to register the contract through the contracts UI, they need to add on-chain contracts address. So yeah, I mean, I already added it, but in case you're a different player, you want to play in the game, you want to add on-chain contracts address, you paste it there. Okay, let me go to a different tab. Yeah, so let's say, yes, I live zero testnet. Yes, I wanna just gonna zoom that in. As a separate player, I would use on-chain contract address. I would paste the address, and then I would need to upload the metadata, and you would need to share this file. But for your convenience, this file is also in the GitHub repository. If you go to complete contracts, here's the metadata. So you don't need to compile it again. Yes, so we just go complete contracts, game JSON, add contract. Here you go. So now you have a contract, and then let's say you wanna let's say you wanna add your game. Then yes, you ask about changing the logic. So yes, to give you intuition, let's go to simple player, and let's just do very primitive. Let's just very primitive logic where we would, let's say, just I don't know, color blocks in line, just one single line. So our current turn is 0, and well, we start from 0, and let's just say we return. We would simply return. So x, like would return current turn and 0. That's it. So just color in a single line. So then you go to simple player, and all you need to do is again run cargo contract build release. You compile it in release mode. Yes, okay. Then you go to your simple player, target, similar as before, upload the contract. If I remember, it was 20 by 20. I think it was 20 by 20. Dimensions. It's 10 by 10. Okay. So it's next. So dimensions, again, this is something that you can also change. If you want to do some fancy logic, you can actually, as a part of instantiation, you can query the game contract. So here in instantiation, you can step in the cross-contract call to game contract to exactly request these dimensions. But for now, let's just for simplicity specify them manually. The start is 0. Let's say we would start from around 0. We upload instantiate. Again, I'm signed the transaction. And yeah, I'm good to go. And then I would want to register myself. So with register player, I would choose the simple player, and would call it, my name is Jorma, or any name you want to put. You can see that contract reverted. Is that because you need to provide the value, like you need to send some tokens as a part of the call, which, if you remember, we specified as a buy-in amount. So our buy-in amount is 1, so we need to specify value as 1 in order to register a player. Again, I register. Yes, and let me go back to that. Now you can see me on the screen. Again, for clarity, I'll add pixel grid and coordinates. And now you can start the game. So either me or the person who created the game can start it, but it doesn't really matter. So now let's go to game and let's start the game. Yes. So the game started, and at this point, you can either manually submit turns, like by just manually. You can see we colored the block, but in order to automate this process, we, as I mentioned before, we wrote a script. And in this script, again, all these structures I'm mentioning, I think, yes, they are inside a game README. Like they literally walk you through the process of running the game. So just let's look at the script really quickly. It doesn't really matter, but make sure you export your SURI, so your secret URI, somewhere in the environmental variable. So make sure you don't use your staking or your, I would say, production wallets for that. Use some temporarily generated Polkadot.js or Talisman wallet. So in case it gets compromised, you don't have anything to lose. And yeah, it just takes one argument contract address, and it just submits a bunch of calls in the loop until it fails. So let's just do that. Again, I'm going to go to the game. I'm going to copy the address. I'm going to paste it here. And that should start submitting transactions. I hope. Yes, I think. Auto gas, that's interesting. Oh, yes. You actually spotted the mistake because I'm not updating the turn. Yes, I'm not updating the turn. So we need to run it. So we need to run it again. But you get the intuition. I want to actually give some time for questions in case people have questions. So yeah, right now for the simple logic, we just color a single block. But here, every turn, we just color them in the line. Sorry, pardon me, rookie mistake. And yeah, it will basically run this game in a loop until the game, until the last round passes. Then the game will automatically call end game. It will finish the game, and then a person who won, he can go to game contract and actually, I think, retrieve the money. Or they're sent automatically. I don't remember exactly. Place sorted number purchase. Yeah, I think that the funds are sent automatically to. No, they can. Yes, but they can destroy, and that this will automatically send the winning pot to the winner player. So yes, that's that. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, I think there are two in the chat. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at those.
Initiate recommendation or 18N of dApps. Honestly, I can't really comment on that because I don't really work with localization quite often, if that's what you mean. I just, as rule of thumb, just do everything in English. You know, like a smart contract or like blockchain is more or less like international platform for people to use. I can't really comment on that, sorry. One player, one contract, host player, two contract, and back and forth because it uses contract call. Yes, so player contract actually does not update the state of the game. Or all the player contract does is simply returning the coordinates X and Y. But game contract calls player contract and basically retrieves this X and Y coordinates and updates its internal state of the grid. Basically, like it's calling each player sequentially. Like let's say you have two players, A and B, would call like let's say first player A. Player A would return coordinates to game contract. Game contract will basically color the cell and the specific coordinate on the behalf of a player, like updating the state, and it will do the same for player B. Again, is the package event is the package you could use if I remember correctly. Again, I have not worked with localization on the front end. Honestly, I cannot help you there. I'm really sorry.
Okay, I think that might be all the questions then that we've gotten today. Thank you so much for joining. I don't know if there was anything else you wanted to bring up or say before we end.
Yes, in case you want to get in touch with me, like have any questions about ink and stuff, here's my Telegram. Feel free to DM me. Just say like, hey, I'm Rob from Encode Hackathon. Did the session? Yes, and I'll be happy to help you and answer any questions. All right, cool. That's it.
Cool. Thank you so much for joining. It seems like everyone really enjoyed it. And yeah, really nice of you to provide your contact details so everyone can kind of check in if something comes up afterwards. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you all soon. And goodbye to everyone who came to watch. Thank you guys for coming and for asking questions. And yeah, tusen tack. Yeah, thank you. Have a nice day, everyone.
Thank you, Clara, for having me.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.